The night was supposed to be quiet. A private dinner, no cameras, no headlines, no whispers leaking into the public eye. But before the first course even arrived, voices began to rise behind closed doors, and what started as a tense conversation quickly turned into a confrontation that insiders now call one of the most shocking clashes tied to JD Vance's personal life. Fans are shocked, sources claim, because the argument was not just emotional. It was explosive. Erika Kirk walked into the room already carrying weeks of frustration, her expression calm but her silence heavy. Across from her sat Usha Vance, composed yet visibly guarded, determined not to let rumors dictate her reality. Witnesses say the air felt charged long before either woman spoke. One wrong sentence was all it took. Within seconds, accusations surfaced, voices sharpened, and a deeply personal battle unfolded over loyalty, trust, and the question everyone had been quietly asking. Who truly held JD Vance's heart? What makes this story even more unbelievable is how quickly private tension became public chaos. Friends nearby claim emotions ran high as both women refused to back down. Old messages were mentioned, private meetings were exposed, and when JD himself reportedly tried to calm the situation, the confrontation only intensified, leaving the family divided and those closest to them stunned into silence. Behind the headlines lies a story filled with jealousy, misunderstood intentions, and secrets that may have been buried for far too long. As details continue to surface, one thing has become clear. This was never just a disagreement. It was a fight fueled by emotion, pride, and a love triangle no one saw coming. And tonight, you are about to hear how one dinner changed everything. The tension inside the private dining room felt heavier than anyone expected, and even before the first glass touched the table, everyone could sense something was wrong. Erika Kirk stood near the window, arms crossed tightly, watching the city lights flicker outside as if searching for patience she no longer had. Across the room, Usha Vance sat composed, her posture calm but her eyes alert, already aware that this evening was not going to remain peaceful. JD Vance moved between them, attempting small talk, forcing a smile that fooled no one. Those present later whispered that fans would be shocked if they knew how fragile the atmosphere truly was. The conversation began politely enough. Questions about schedules, recent appearances, and public rumors floated across the table, each sentence carefully chosen. But underneath every word lived an unspoken accusation. Erika finally broke the silence when she placed her phone on the table with a quiet but deliberate tap. The sound echoed louder than expected. "You really think I wouldn't find out?" she asked, her voice calm yet sharp enough to cut through the room. Usha blinked slowly, refusing to react immediately. "Find out what exactly?" she replied, measured and controlled. JD shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should all just relax," he said, attempting to laugh, but no one joined him. Erika leaned forward. "Don't do that. Don't pretend this is nothing. I've seen the messages. The late-night calls. The meetings nobody was supposed to know about." The words landed hard. Emotions ran high instantly. One friend sitting nearby later claimed the air felt electric, as if everyone realized the night had crossed a point of no return. Usha's calm expression tightened. "You're twisting things," she said quietly. "You don't understand the situation." "Then explain it," Erika shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been stepping into a place that isn't yours." JD raised his hands. "This is getting out of hand," but it was already too late. Erika pulled up a message thread and turned the screen toward the table. No one else could fully see it, but the reaction on Usha's face told its own story. Her composure cracked for a brief second, enough for Erika to notice. "Exactly," Erika whispered. "That silence says everything." The family was left divided even before the argument fully began. Some believed Erika was reacting out of jealousy fueled by rumors spreading online. Others quietly admitted that the timing of certain meetings between JD and Usha had raised questions long before this dinner. JD walked closer to Erika, lowering his voice. "You're misunderstanding what those conversations were about. They were professional." Erika laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. Professional doesn't happen at midnight. Fans are shocked now hearing insiders describe how quickly the situation escalated. Voices grew louder. Chairs shifted. The carefully planned dinner dissolved into confrontation. Usha finally stood up, her patience breaking. "You don't get to accuse me without knowing the truth," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "I have supported JD through things you never even saw." That sentence changed everything. Erika's expression hardened instantly. "Supported him how?" she demanded. By replacing people who were already there. JD stepped between them again, visibly stressed. "Stop, both of you. This isn't helping anyone," but neither woman listened. Weeks of tension poured out all at once. Erika spoke about feeling pushed aside, about moments when JD seemed distant, about conversations that suddenly stopped when she entered a room. Usha responded by defending her loyalty, insisting that she had only acted out of concern during difficult periods JD faced privately. Every word added fuel to the fire. A nearby friend attempted to interrupt, suggesting they sit down and talk calmly, but the emotional storm had already taken control. Accusations turned personal, past misunderstandings resurfaced, even small memories were pulled into the argument as evidence of betrayal. "You think this is about attention," Usha said, her voice shaking slightly. "But this is about trust." "Exactly," Erika replied, "and trust doesn't survive secrets." JD looked exhausted, running a hand through his hair as he realized the conflict was no longer something he could quietly manage. The dinner had transformed into a confrontation that exposed feelings none of them had planned to reveal. Outside the room, whispers began spreading among staff and guests who overheard raised voices. Within minutes, speculation started forming. People exchanged glances, already predicting headlines that would follow if the story leaked. Inside, the argument reached another turning point when Erika revealed that she had spoken to someone close to JD who confirmed private meetings had been hidden intentionally. The revelation stunned everyone present. USHA's eyes widened. "You went digging into personal conversations?" "I went looking for honesty," Erika answered. JD sighed deeply, realizing silence was no longer an option. "There are things happening you both don't fully understand," he admitted. The confession only deepened the mystery. "Then explain them now," Erika demanded. JD hesitated, and that hesitation spoke louder than any explanation. Fans later described this moment as the instant emotions truly exploded. Erika interpreted his pause as guilt, while Usha interpreted it as fear of exposing something deeply personal. Voices overlapped. Frustration grew. The room felt smaller with every passing second. "I'm tired of being made to feel like an outsider," Erika said, her voice breaking slightly despite her effort to stay strong. Usha responded just as emotionally. "And I'm tired of being blamed for caring." JD closed his eyes briefly, realizing that no matter what he said next, someone would walk away hurt. The conflict was no longer about rumors. It had become a battle over loyalty, identity, and who truly understood him. As the argument continued, one unexpected detail surfaced that changed the direction of the entire night. Erika mentioned a conversation JD had weeks earlier about feeling misunderstood and alone. Usha reacted instantly, revealing she had been part of that same discussion, offering support during what she described as one of JD's most difficult emotional periods. The realization stunned Erika. The timeline suddenly connected in ways she had not expected. "So you were there," she said slowly, her voice quieter but more intense. "You were the person he turned to." Silence filled the room. JD looked between them, knowing the truth was finally unavoidable, and as both women waited for his answer, the tension reached a level no one present would ever forget, because whatever he said next would decide whether this confrontation ended in understanding or complete emotional collapse. Jade's silence stretched longer than anyone expected, and in that silence both women searched his face for answers that refused to come easily. The room felt frozen, as if even the air waited for him to speak. Finally, he exhaled slowly, lowering himself into his chair as though the weight of the moment had become too heavy to carry standing. "Yes," he admitted quietly. Usha was there. The words landed like a shockwave. Erika stared at him, her expression shifting from anger to disbelief. Fans are shocked now hearing insiders describe how the atmosphere changed instantly, not louder but deeper, more painful. It was no longer a guessing game. It was confirmation. "There," Erika repeated softly. "While I was wondering why you stopped talking to me," JD shook his head quickly. "That's not what happened," but Erika's emotions were already spilling over. "Then explain it, because from where I stood, you disappeared emotionally." Every conversation felt distant. Every answer felt rehearsed. Usha remained still, watching carefully, her own emotions barely contained. She seemed torn between defending herself and stepping back entirely. "He needed someone to listen," Usha said gently. "That's all it was." Erika turned toward her immediately. "And you decided that someone should be you?" The tension rose again. Voices sharpened, though neither woman shouted now. The anger had transformed into something quieter and more personal. The family was left divided emotionally, unsure who was right and who was simply hurt. JD leaned forward. "I didn't plan for any of this. I was dealing with pressure from everywhere. Work, public expectations, constant criticism. I didn't want to burden you," he said to Erika. Her eyes filled with frustration. "You don't protect someone by shutting them out." Those words lingered heavily. Even Usha looked affected by them. A close friend later said this was the moment emotions ran high in a different way, less explosive but far more painful. The argument shifted from accusations to vulnerability. Usha spoke again, her voice quieter than before. You think I wanted to be in the middle of this? I didn't. He reached out because he felt lost. Erika folded her arms again, trying to steady herself. People don't just reach out every night unless something deeper is happening. JD rubbed his temples, clearly overwhelmed. Nothing romantic happened, he insisted. You both need to understand that, but doubt lingered in the room. Trust once shaken does not rebuild with a single sentence. Erika walked slowly toward the table, her voice trembling despite her effort to remain strong. Then why hide it? Why delete messages? Why act nervous whenever her name came up? JD hesitated again, and that hesitation reignited suspicion instantly. Because I knew it would look wrong, he admitted. The honesty, though intended to calm things, only intensified the emotional storm. So you knew, Erika said, shaking her head. You knew it would hurt me. Usha stepped forward slightly. He wasn't trying to hurt you, but he did, Erika replied firmly. Outside the room, whispers continued spreading among those who sensed something serious unfolding. Phones quietly lit up as rumors began forming even before anyone knew the full story. Fans are shocked now, realizing how close this private moment came to becoming public chaos in real time. Inside, JD tried once more to regain control. This dinner was supposed to clear misunderstandings, he said, not create new ones. Erika gave a faint, tired laugh. Truth usually creates more problems before it fixes anything. For a moment, no one spoke. The tension softened into exhaustion. Then an unexpected twist emerged when Usha revealed something neither Erika nor the others had known. He almost walked away from everything, she said quietly. JD looked up sharply. Usha, but she continued. He told me he felt trapped between expectations and reality. He didn't know who he was supposed to be anymore. Erika froze, clearly hearing this for the first time. You never told me that, she whispered to JD. Because I didn't want you to worry, he replied. You don't get to decide what I can handle, she answered. The emotional gap between them suddenly became visible. Erika realized that while she believed she knew JD completely, parts of his struggles had unfolded elsewhere, shared with someone else. The realization hurt more than any accusation. Usha's voice softened. I wasn't trying to replace anyone. I was trying to help someone who looked like he was breaking. The sincerity in her tone caused a brief pause. Even Erika seemed uncertain how to respond. But just as the tension began easing, another unexpected revelation surfaced. A mutual friend quietly mentioned seeing JD and Usha together at an event weeks earlier, long before the emotional conversations supposedly began. Erika turned instantly. You said this started recently. Jade's expression changed again, caught between honesty and regret. That meeting was accidental, he said quickly. Nothing feels accidental anymore, Erika replied. Emotions surged once again. Accusations returned, stronger than before. The family was left divided, with some believing misunderstandings had grown out of genuine concern, while others suspected deeper emotional attachment neither JD nor Usha wanted to admit. Voices overlapped again as past moments were re-examined through new suspicion. Every memory became evidence. Every explanation sounded incomplete. Usha finally raised her voice slightly for the first time. You're turning kindness into betrayal, Erika answered immediately. Because betrayal often hides inside kindness. JD stood abruptly, frustration finally breaking through his calm exterior. Enough. This isn't fair to anyone. The sudden intensity startled everyone. Even the nearby guests fell silent. He looked at both women, his voice firm but emotional. I never wanted either of you hurt. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being honest about how overwhelmed I felt. The confession shifted the energy again. Anger slowly mixed with understanding, though trust remained fragile. Erika's voice softened slightly. Then why does it feel like you trusted her more than me? JD struggled to answer, and that struggle spoke volumes. Usha looked away, realizing the question carried weight beyond the argument itself. The room grew quiet again, heavy with emotions that no longer needed shouting. Everyone sensed the confrontation had reached another turning point, one that would either lead toward healing or push the conflict into something far more complicated. And as JD prepared to reveal the one detail he had avoided all evening, both women watched closely, unaware that his next confession would change not only how they saw him, but how they saw each other, setting the stage for an even deeper emotional clash that none of them were ready for. Jade's hands trembled slightly as he rested them on the table, and for the first time that evening he looked less like a man trying to manage conflict and more like someone caught between two emotional realities he could no longer balance. The silence pressed in again, heavier than before, and everyone present sensed that whatever he was about to say would reopen wounds rather than close them. "There's something I didn't tell either of you," he began slowly, choosing each word with care. "Because I didn't fully understand it myself." Erika's eyes narrowed, exhaustion mixing with anticipation. Usha remained still, though her posture stiffened, as if she already feared what was coming next. During those conversations, JD continued, "I wasn't just asking for advice. I was questioning everything about my life. My decisions, my relationships, even who I was becoming." The admission hung in the air. Fans are shocked now hearing insiders describe how the room shifted from confrontation to raw vulnerability in seconds. Erika spoke first. "Questioning us?" JD hesitated. "Questioning whether I was being honest with myself." The answer felt incomplete, and Erika sensed it immediately. "That's not the same thing," she said quietly. "You're avoiding the real point." Usha finally stepped forward. "He means he was lost," she said softly. "Not choosing between people," but Erika shook her head. "You don't get lost alone with someone else every night without feelings getting involved." Emotions ran high again, though the voices remained controlled. The argument had become less about anger and more about emotional truth. JD looked at Usha briefly, then back at Erika. "I never planned for things to feel complicated. But somewhere along the way, talking to her became easier." The confession struck deeply. Erika inhaled sharply, clearly hurt. "Easier than talking to me?" she asked. JD struggled. "Not easier because of who you are. Easier because she met me at a moment when I didn't know how to explain myself to anyone else." The explanation did little to soften the blow. Erika turned away briefly, blinking back emotion. "So while I was trying to understand why you felt distant," she said slowly, "you were building emotional closeness somewhere else." Usha immediately responded, "That's not fair. Emotional support doesn't automatically mean betrayal." Erika faced her again. "It does when it replaces honesty." The family was left divided emotionally, with those present later saying they could understand both sides yet fully agree with neither. JD appeared increasingly overwhelmed, realizing that truth alone was not enough to repair damaged trust. One of the friends quietly suggested taking a break, but no one moved. The conversation had reached a point where walking away felt impossible. JD continued, his voice softer now. "There were moments I felt understood in ways I hadn't felt in a long time." Erika closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the words. "That's the part that hurts," she admitted. "Not rumors, not messages. The fact that you found comfort somewhere I thought belonged to us." Usha looked conflicted, guilt flickering across her face for the first time. "I never wanted to take anything from you," she said sincerely. "I thought I was helping him reconnect with himself." Erika replied quietly, "Sometimes helping someone means stepping back." That sentence lingered heavily. Even JD seemed affected by it. Outside, the night continued normally, unaware that inside the room emotional boundaries were collapsing. Fans are shocked now learning how deeply personal the confrontation became as past memories surfaced unexpectedly. JD suddenly mentioned a moment weeks earlier when he had almost cancelled a major public appearance due to stress. Erika remembered that day clearly, recalling how he had told her he was simply tired. Usha revealed she had spent hours convincing him not to withdraw completely. The realization hit Erika hard. "You shared your breaking point with her," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you told me nothing." JD looked regretful. "I didn't want you to see me weak." "Love isn't avoiding weakness," Erika answered. "It's trusting someone with it." The words silenced everyone again. Emotions ran high, but now tears threatened rather than anger. Usha took a step back, as if recognizing the emotional space she had unknowingly occupied. "Maybe I stayed involved longer than I should have," she admitted quietly. Erika studied her carefully, surprised by the honesty. JD looked between them, sensing the shift. "This was never supposed to turn into competition." Erika replied gently but firmly. It became one the moment honesty disappeared. Another unexpected twist emerged when a phone buzzed loudly on the table. A notification flashed briefly, revealing online rumors already spreading about tension between them. Someone outside had clearly noticed the argument earlier. "It's already leaking," one friend murmured. JD sighed heavily. "That's exactly what I wanted to avoid." The reality of public scrutiny suddenly united them in shared discomfort. Regardless of who was right, their private pain was becoming public entertainment. Usha looked toward Erika. "Whatever people think, I never crossed a line intentionally." Erika nodded slowly, though uncertainty remained. "Intentions don't erase consequences." The conversation softened again, moving toward reflection rather than accusation. JD admitted he had relied on silence instead of communication, believing problems would fade on their own. Both women agreed that silence had only created misunderstanding. Yet beneath the calmer tone, unresolved emotion remained. Erika finally asked the question everyone had been avoiding. "Do you have feelings for her?" The room froze completely. Jade's expression revealed conflict before he even spoke. Usha looked down, unwilling to interfere. After a long pause, JD answered carefully. "I care about her deeply. But not in the way people will assume." The answer satisfied no one completely. Erika nodded slowly, absorbing the complexity rather than reacting instantly. "Sometimes emotional lines blur long before anyone admits it," she said. Usha quietly added, "And sometimes people confuse connection with intention." The three of them stood suspended between understanding and uncertainty, none fully certain how to move forward. Trust had cracked, but not entirely shattered. As the conversation slowed, exhaustion replaced confrontation. Voices lowered, emotions settled into quiet reflection. Yet everyone sensed the conflict was not finished. Too many feelings had surfaced, and too many questions remained unanswered. JD looked at both women, realizing that honesty had revealed more complications than lies ever had. And just when it seemed the night might finally calm, an unexpected arrival at the restaurant entrance sent whispers through the hallway, signaling that the drama surrounding them was about to grow far bigger than any of them imagined. The sudden movement outside the dining room pulled everyone's attention toward the door, where hushed voices and hurried footsteps hinted that something unusual was happening. One of the staff members entered briefly, whispering to a nearby guest, and within seconds tension returned to the room. Whatever peace had begun forming disappeared instantly. JD looked confused, Erika straightened instinctively, and Usha's calm expression shifted into concern. "What now?" Erika asked quietly, sensing another wave of chaos approaching. Before anyone could answer, the door opened again and a familiar figure appeared, someone none of them expected to see that night. The arrival sent a ripple of shock through the room. Whispers spread quickly, and fans are shocked now hearing insiders describe how the situation escalated beyond a private disagreement into something far more public. The newcomer explained that media speculation had already begun circulating online. Someone had recorded raised voices earlier, and rumors about a confrontation involving JD, Erika, and Usha were spreading rapidly across social platforms. Phones around the table lit up almost simultaneously as notifications flooded in. "It's everywhere already," one friend muttered, scrolling through headlines forming in real time. Jade's shoulders dropped in frustration. "This is exactly what I feared." Erika glanced at her phone, reading comments filled with assumptions and exaggerated stories. "They don't even know what actually happened," she said, disbelief mixing with anger. Usha remained quiet, watching the reactions carefully. "Once people start choosing sides," she said softly, "truth becomes secondary." The family was left divided not only emotionally but publicly now. Messages from friends, colleagues, and distant acquaintances began arriving, each asking different versions of the same question. What happened between them? Emotions ran high again as the reality of public scrutiny settled in. Erika felt exposed, as if private pain had been taken out of her hands. JD paced slowly near the window, struggling to regain control of a narrative that was no longer his to manage. "We need to clarify things before rumors grow worse," he said. Erika looked at him sharply. "Clarify what exactly? Because even we don't fully agree on what this is." The honesty of her statement silenced him. Usha finally spoke with quiet firmness. "Maybe the problem isn't rumors. Maybe it's that none of us defined boundaries when things started becoming emotionally complicated." The admission caught both of them off guard. Erika considered her words carefully. "So you admit it became complicated?" Usha nodded slowly. "Yes, emotionally complicated, but not intentionally harmful." JD looked relieved yet anxious as the conversation shifted again. For the first time, both women were speaking with reflection rather than accusation. However, another twist emerged when Erika revealed she had received a message earlier that day from someone claiming JD had been confiding doubts about his future long before Usha entered the picture. The timeline suddenly changed again. "You were struggling before any of this," Erika said, turning toward him. "Why didn't you let me help then?" JD hesitated, searching for words that would not deepen the wound. "Because I thought I had to appear strong for you," he admitted. Erika shook her head gently. "Strength isn't silence." Usha added quietly, "Sometimes people reach out to whoever is present during their lowest moment. It doesn't mean they value others less." The statement carried truth but also discomfort. Emotions ran high once more as each person confronted how timing, vulnerability, and proximity had shaped their relationships. Outside the restaurant, photographers had begun gathering after rumors spread online. Flashes occasionally reflected through the windows, reminding everyone that privacy was slipping away by the minute. JD noticed first. "We can't leave together right now," he said. "It will look worse." Erika sighed deeply. "Everything already looks worse." A friend suggested separate exits, but the idea only emphasized how fractured the situation had become. Usha walked toward the table slowly, placing her phone down as if symbolically removing herself from the chaos. "I never wanted to stand between two people," she said sincerely. "If my presence caused pain, then I need to acknowledge that." Erika studied her face, searching for insincerity but finding none. The anger that once dominated her expression softened slightly, replaced by exhaustion. "This isn't just about you," Erika admitted. "It's about feeling replaced without warning." JD stepped closer. "No one replaced anyone," he said firmly. "I just failed to communicate." The simplicity of the statement made it harder to argue. Sometimes the biggest conflicts come from absence rather than action. A long pause followed, filled with quiet reflection. The emotional storm seemed to slow again, though unresolved feelings remained beneath the surface. Then another unexpected revelation surfaced when JD admitted that he had considered distancing himself from both of them temporarily to focus on personal clarity, but fear of hurting either person kept him from doing so. Erika raised an eyebrow. "So instead you kept both relationships emotionally active?" He nodded reluctantly. "I thought I could manage it until I understood my own feelings." Usha sighed softly. "That rarely works." The honesty of that moment created a strange sense of unity. For the first time, blame felt shared rather than directed at one person. Fans are shocked now, learning how the confrontation slowly transformed into a conversation about emotional responsibility rather than rivalry. Yet peace remained fragile. Erika walked toward the window, watching camera flashes outside. "People out there think this is a dramatic fight over love," she said quietly. "But it feels more like three people trying to understand themselves too late." JD responded gently. "Maybe understanding comes after mistakes." Usha nodded. "And maybe forgiveness comes after understanding." The words lingered between them, offering possibility but no resolution. As the night moved closer to its end, exhaustion replaced intensity. Voices softened. Accusations faded into reflection. Yet one final question remained unspoken, hanging heavily in the air. Erika finally turned back toward JD, her voice calm but serious. "When all this noise disappears, when cameras leave and rumors fade, who do you actually see standing beside you?" JD looked at her, then briefly at Usha, realizing that the answer would not only define his future but also determine whether the fragile piece forming in that room would survive or collapse completely. And as he opened his mouth to respond, both women prepared themselves for a truth that could change everything once again. Jade's eyes lingered on Erika for a long moment, the weight of her question pressing heavier than anything he had faced all evening. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of city lights outside, yet the tension was palpable, as if every second stretched into an eternity. Fans are shocked now, hearing insiders describe how close this private moment was to a revelation that could redefine the entire dynamic between them. JD began, his voice low, almost hesitant. He glanced at Usha, seeing both vulnerability and patience in her expression. "I don't want to hurt either of you anymore. I've realized that my feelings have been confused, and I need time to truly understand what I want, not just for me, but for everyone involved." Erika's brow furrowed, disbelief flashing across her face. "Time? After everything tonight, you're asking for time?" Her voice trembled, though she fought to remain steady. "We've spent months trying to navigate honesty, and now you're saying, wait?" Usha took a cautious step forward. "Maybe time is exactly what's needed. If anything, this night has shown how fragile communication has been." The words hung in the room like a mirror, reflecting the emotional chaos of the evening back at them. The family was left divided, not just in opinion, but in heart. Past resentments surfaced quietly as Erika considered how many nights she had felt excluded, how many conversations had been interrupted, and how much of her trust had been tested. JD continued, his voice gaining a firmer tone. "I never meant to replace anyone or choose sides. I just didn't realize how much my silence was hurting both of you. The connections I have with each of you are different, but equally important. I just need clarity, and I want to handle this with care." Erika's eyes glistened, torn between frustration and a reluctant understanding. "Care?" she whispered. "Care would have meant honesty from the beginning." "I know," JD admitted, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion. "And I can't take back the hurt. All I can do is try to be honest now and move forward with as much clarity as I can manage." Usha nodded, a quiet acknowledgement passing between them. Honesty now is better than pretending it was perfect before, she said softly. We can't change the past, but we can decide what comes next. For a moment, silence filled the room, but it was different this time. It was not heavy with accusation, but heavy with reflection, with the recognition that the night had stripped away pretenses and forced them to confront raw, uncomfortable truths. Erika finally spoke again, her voice steadier now. Then tell me the truth, JD. Do you see a future with either of us, or are we all just fragments in your confusion? Jade's gaze dropped to the table, searching for the words that could bridge the chasm of doubt. I see a future, he said slowly, but I need to define what that means for me first. I can't give either of you a promise I'm not ready to keep. The confession was a blow in its own right. Erika's expression hardened slightly, yet she understood the necessity of his honesty. Usha's lips pressed into a thin line, processing the same painful clarity. Fans are shocked now, learning how this fragile moment of truth left both women grappling with their own emotions while trying to respect his need for self-discovery. A long pause followed, the kind that stretches seconds into lifetimes. Outside, flashes from the media continued to illuminate the windows, a stark reminder that privacy was fleeting and public scrutiny was inevitable. The room that had been filled with confrontation, accusation, and revelation now felt heavy with decision, with the unsaid, with the question of what loyalty, love, and understanding truly meant in a world so eager to watch. Erika finally exhaled slowly, her voice soft but clear. Then we wait, she said. We wait and see if clarity brings understanding or more heartbreak. Usha echoed her sentiment, nodding. We wait, she said, though the uncertainty in her voice mirrored the tension in the room. JD looked between them, grateful yet anxious, knowing that this pause was the only thing that could prevent further damage. The emotional storm had not passed, but for the first time, reflection had replaced rage, and understanding, tentative as it was, had begun to take root. And just when the trio seemed to find a fragile balance, a sudden notification buzzed on Jade's phone, followed by a quiet gasp from a friend nearby. It was another development none of them expected, a twist that threatened to upend the fragile calm and push them back into emotional chaos, proving that the night's drama was far from over. Jade's eyes widened as he read the notification, the color draining slightly from his face. Erika and Usha leaned in, curiosity and anxiety mixing in equal measure. The message was from a mutual friend, someone who had been observing them from afar, and it revealed that private footage of part of their argument had somehow leaked online. Fans are shocked now, hearing insiders describe how quickly the private confrontation transformed into potential public spectacle. The implications hit immediately. What had been confined to a tense dining room was now at risk of becoming a viral headline. It's out, JD muttered, almost to himself. People might see everything. His voice carried a mix of dread and disbelief. Erika's jaw tightened, her anger rekindling instantly. Everything? She repeated sharply. So now the world gets to watch us tear each other apart? Usha's face fell, and she stepped back, her voice quiet but firm. We have to control what we can. Panic won't fix what's already happening. The room seemed to constrict with each passing second, the realization settling in that their private emotional landscape was no longer theirs alone. Flashes from cameras outside reflected intermittently through the windows, a silent reminder that media attention was already on the way. The family was left divided not just emotionally but now in the public eye. JD ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. I can't believe this. All I wanted was honesty and closure, not this. Erika slammed her hand lightly on the table. Honesty? You had honesty tonight, and look where it's gotten us. Exposed. Humiliated. The only thing missing is the headline. Usha tried to mediate, stepping cautiously between them. We need to stay calm. Let's decide what to say, what to confirm, and what to keep private. Reacting impulsively will only make it worse. Fans are shocked now, realizing how high the stakes had become, as what began as a deeply personal confrontation had escalated into a situation with potential reputational consequences for everyone involved. The emotional tension mixed with fear of public judgment, creating a pressure cooker atmosphere. JD took a deep breath, trying to center himself. We can explain it as a misunderstanding. That's all it is, misunderstanding. Erika shook her head, frustration still visible. Misunderstanding doesn't capture months of secrecy, confusion, and emotional manipulation. It doesn't capture the fact that people out there will assume betrayal. Usha's voice softened. We can't control what people assume. We can only control what we say and how we handle it moving forward. The discussion shifted subtly as they began strategizing. Words were weighed carefully, and the argument evolved into a conversation about damage control. Yet beneath the practicalities, unresolved emotions lingered. The air still carried remnants of anger, hurt, and confusion. JD looked between Erika and Usha, realizing that even with careful words, some trust had been permanently altered. "We need to agree on one story," he said. "One version that doesn't make anyone a villain but doesn't hide the truth either." Erika nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but the truth must be clear. Nothing happened beyond emotional support. Nothing romantic, nothing manipulative. That has to be the baseline." Usha agreed quietly. "Yes, emotional support only. Anything else will only escalate this further." Fans are shocked now, understanding the tightrope the three were walking, trying to maintain dignity and clarity while the world's eyes threatened to turn every nuance into a scandal. The pressure was palpable, as each second felt like a countdown to public exposure. The room fell into a tense quiet again, the earlier confrontations replaced by cautious planning. Yet even in that calm, everyone sensed the fragility of their truce. Emotions ran high just beneath the surface, ready to surge again if any misstep occurred. JD finally stood, running both hands through his hair. "We have to leave soon. Whatever happens next, we face it together, at least publicly. Privately, we deal with the emotional fallout later." Erika gave a faint nod, her voice low. "Together publicly. But privately, I'm not sure what happens next." Usha looked at her, acknowledging the truth. "None of us are. And that's okay. We just need to survive this night." The three of them exchanged one last glance, a mixture of defiance, exhaustion, and resignation. Outside, flashes from cameras continued to pop, and the city hummed as if unaware of the drama unfolding within that single room. And as they prepared to step back into a world that had already begun judging them, each of them knew that this night would not be forgotten, that the emotional chaos had only just begun, and that the story the world would eventually hear might be only a fraction of the truth, and far more dramatic than anyone could imagine. As they made their way toward the exit, the weight of the night pressed down on all three of them. JD led the way, glancing anxiously at the flashes from photographers already gathering outside. Erika walked a few steps behind, her expression a mixture of frustration and weary determination. Usha brought up the rear, careful not to show panic, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed her. Fans are shocked now, hearing insiders describe how even the act of leaving a restaurant became a high-stakes event, as though every step might be captured and turned into another headline. Once outside, the bright lights of cameras hit them all at once. Flashes went off relentlessly, capturing expressions, gestures, and the smallest interactions. Reporters shouted questions they couldn't hear over the chaos, their voices blending into a loud, incomprehensible hum. Erika's hand shot to her face instinctively, shielding herself from both light and scrutiny. Usha kept her head high, eyes forward, but the tight line of her jaw revealed tension. Jade's hands trembled slightly as he moved through the crowd, trying to maintain calm while knowing that any wrong move could escalate speculation even further. "What happened inside?" a reporter shouted. "Are there romantic tensions between you two?" Erika didn't answer immediately, her silence louder than any words. Usha gave a small, controlled shake of her head, signaling that speculation would have to wait. JD finally raised a hand, attempting to calm the situation. "There's nothing romantic," he said firmly, his voice carrying through the crowd. "It's been blown out of proportion." The statement did little to halt the frenzy. Flashes continued, questions continued, and whispers among onlookers spread faster than any controlled explanation. The trio moved quickly toward their respective vehicles, aware that every glance, every step, every gesture was being analyzed, interpreted, and shared in real time. Inside one car, Erika finally exhaled, leaning back against the seat, exhaustion overtaking anger for the first time. "I can't believe they already know everything," she said quietly. "We haven't even had a chance to process tonight ourselves." Usha, in the vehicle behind, spoke through a slightly lowered window, her voice careful but sincere. "We control what we say from here on out. That's all we can do. Public perception is unavoidable, but honesty is still ours." JD remained silent, staring out the window, reflecting on how quickly the personal had become public. He realized that the line between emotional support and misinterpretation was razor thin, and that the smallest moment could ignite speculation that would last for weeks. Fans are shocked now, learning how fragile their privacy had become, and how an intimate confrontation had exploded into a story that could dominate headlines for days. The vehicles finally separated, each of them heading to different locations, yet a sense of shared anxiety lingered. Erika scrolled through messages and notifications she had been avoiding, each one filled with assumptions, speculation, and opinion. Usha did the same, careful not to respond impulsively. JD sat in quiet reflection, realizing that whatever clarity he needed personally would now have to contend with a world watching every move. The night was far from over. Emotions had run high, trust had been tested, and personal truths had been laid bare. Yet unresolved tension remained, lingering in the spaces between words left unspoken and questions left unanswered. The trio had survived the immediate confrontation, but the public scrutiny now promised a new layer of drama, one that could reignite conflicts, force decisions, and expose secrets they had hoped to keep private. Even as the city lights blurred past the car windows, each of them knew that the night's events would not be easily forgotten. The fragile truce they had reached could dissolve at any moment, and every decision moving forward would carry the weight of past misunderstandings, public judgment, and personal vulnerability. The story was far from concluded, and the drama that began inside a private dining room was now only just beginning to unfold on a much larger, more unpredictable stage. The following morning brought no relief. Social media was already flooded with speculation, screenshots, and exaggerated narratives about JD, Erika, and Usha. Every post seemed to paint a different picture, some implied betrayal, others hinted at secret romances, and a few suggested an irreparable rift. Fans are shocked now hearing insiders describe how quickly a single night of private conflict had exploded into a whirlwind of public drama. JD checked his phone repeatedly, scrolling through endless notifications, each ping increasing the weight on his shoulders. Erika, meanwhile, sat in her apartment, staring at the screen as comments and messages piled up. Some were supportive, some judgmental, but almost all carried assumptions that twisted the reality of what had actually happened. She let out a long, frustrated sigh. "This is insane," she muttered, "all of it, the interpretations, the lies, the half-truths." Usha, on her end, felt a similar mix of anxiety and exhaustion. She avoided opening most notifications, knowing that exposure could easily turn her emotional involvement into a scandal she hadn't intended. Yet despite the careful restraint, she could feel the public's curiosity gnawing at her, feeding rumors that made her already complicated feelings even harder to manage. Inside the Vance family, whispers and phone calls flew. Relatives were divided, some believing JD had mishandled the situation, others thinking Erika had overreacted, and a few wondering if Usha had crossed invisible lines that should never have been approached. The family was left divided, with no one entirely certain where loyalty, truth, or affection lay. JD finally stepped away from his phone, taking a deep breath. He realized that the narrative was no longer his to control entirely. The private confrontation had become public, and every word, every glance, every subtle expression from the night before was being dissected by thousands of strangers. He needed to plan carefully, or risk allowing a misunderstanding to spiral completely out of control. He called a trusted friend, someone who had been present in parts of the confrontation. "I need advice," he said, voice low but urgent. "How do we navigate this without making things worse?" The friend responded thoughtfully, suggesting a clear, unified message to manage public perception while emphasizing that nothing romantic had occurred. JD nodded, knowing that even this careful approach could not stop speculation entirely. Erika debated whether to address the situation publicly at all. "If I speak, it could either clear the air or fuel the fire," she said to herself. "But if I stay silent, people will assume the worst." The dilemma left her in a state of emotional limbo, torn between self-preservation and the desire to set the record straight. Usha considered a similar course of action. She wanted to be honest but feared that any statement could be interpreted as taking sides or revealing more than she intended. "How do you admit involvement without being accused?" she whispered, realizing that the balance between honesty and protection was nearly impossible. Meanwhile, private conversations between JD and both women continued. Messages were exchanged carefully, each word weighed for tone, implication, and potential backlash. Fans are shocked now imagining the pressure on all three, as every attempt at clarity risked creating another misunderstanding. The emotional tension had not abated, it had merely transformed into a quieter, more insidious anxiety. No one knew how long it would take for the public frenzy to subside, and each passing hour seemed to add layers of complication to relationships already strained. As the day wore on, the trio realized that their lives were no longer entirely their own. Their personal feelings, struggles, and conflicts had become entertainment for a world eager for drama. The private had become public, the emotional had become performative, and every action they took would now be viewed through the lens of speculation, judgment, and scrutiny. And so, even as they tried to navigate the aftermath with care, the shadow of the previous night's confrontation loomed large. Trust remained fragile, emotions ran high, and the story, far from resolved, was only beginning to unfold in ways none of them could predict. The evening came again, bringing no relief from the tension. JD, Erika, and Usha found themselves back in separate spaces, each reflecting on the events that had spiraled so quickly from private conflict to public spectacle. The pressure of social media, the scrutiny of fans, and the whispers from friends and family all pressed in, reminding them that nothing from that night would remain confined. Emotions ran high, lingering like smoke in the air, as each person considered the choices that lay ahead and the consequences they could not fully control. JD stared out the window, watching the city lights flicker, realizing that the path forward required patience, honesty, and careful consideration. He knew that one wrong statement, one impulsive action, could ignite the rumors and drama further, leaving permanent marks on relationships and reputations. The weight of the night's revelations hung heavily, but so did a sense of responsibility, to himself, to Erika, and to Usha. Erika paced slowly in her apartment, her mind replaying the moments of confrontation, the sharp words, the confessions, and the subtle admissions that had surfaced. She thought about how easy it was for emotions to be misread, for intentions to be questioned, and for trust to be fractured in a single evening. Yet amidst the frustration and exhaustion, there was also clarity. She understood that while the public might assume a story of betrayal or scandal, the real drama was far more nuanced, built from human vulnerability, miscommunication, and the struggle to navigate complex feelings. Usha, too, reflected on her own role, recognizing the unintended impact of her presence and the delicate balance between support and intrusion. She realized that her actions, though innocent in intention, had contributed to the tension, and that moving forward would require both caution and empathy. Understanding that emotions are rarely black and white, she resolved to approach the situation with honesty and respect, despite the glare of public attention. Fans are shocked now, imagining the delicate web of relationships, emotions, and misunderstandings that had unfolded behind closed doors. What had started as a private confrontation over affection and attention had evolved into a story watched, analyzed, and debated by thousands. Yet beneath the public frenzy, the real struggle remained intimate, human, and unresolved. As the night deepened, each of them acknowledged the uncertainty ahead. Questions about trust, loyalty, and feelings were far from answered, and while some clarity had emerged, much remained in the shadows. The family was still divided, emotions still raw, and the public still hungry for details. Yet there was also a sense that careful reflection, honest communication, and patience could guide them through the chaos, if only they were willing to confront their own hearts with courage. And so, the story continues, leaving everyone wondering what will happen next. Will JD find clarity about his feelings? Can Erika and Usha navigate the emotional complexity without further conflict? How will the public react as more details inevitably emerge? Now it's your turn. What do you think about this explosive love triangle? Do you believe JD will finally make a choice, or is the drama far from over? Comment your thoughts below, hit that like button if you want more inside stories like this, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on every twist and turn of this scandal. The drama isn't finished, and you won't want to miss what happens next.